If you've ever felt trapped by your own thoughts, if your mind keeps replaying fears, doubts, or mistakes, then this story is for you. A reminder that the mind is a powerful servant, but a dangerous master when left unchecked. Many years ago, in a peaceful kingdom surrounded by golden hills, there lived a wise ruler named King Arvel. He was known for his calm heart and sharp mind, a man who believed he had conquered every weakness within. But one night, when silence filled the palace and the stars faded behind the clouds, the king discovered that the hardest battle in life isn't fought with swords or soldiers. It's fought within your own mind. King Arvel was known throughout the land as a man of discipline and reason. His mornings began before sunrise, his mind trained through years of meditation and reflection. Under his rule, the kingdom thrived. Justice was fair, people were content, and peace reigned like the steady rhythm of a river. Yet, deep inside, the king carried a quiet pride, the belief that he had conquered himself completely. He often told his ministers, "The greatest victory is victory over one's own mind." But pride, even when disguised as wisdom, can open unseen doors. One day, during a royal gathering, a wandering sage arrived at the palace. The man was old, his robes simple, his eyes sharp as truth. He bowed before the king and said, "Your Majesty, I have heard that you control your thoughts better than any man. Is that true?" Arvel smiled, a touch of confidence in his voice. "I have faced anger, desire, fear, and greed, and mastered them all." The sage nodded slowly. "Then you are ready for the final test. I challenge you to a battle, not of swords, but of mind." The court grew silent. The king leaned forward, intrigued. "And what is your challenge, old one?" The sage replied, "For one night, you must not think of anything. No fear, no memory, no desire. Absolute stillness of mind." Arvel laughed softly. A simple task for one who has mastered himself. The sage's eyes glinted. "We shall see." As night fell, the king sat alone in his chamber, determined to prove his mastery. The room was silent, the candles flickering low. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. For a moment, peace filled him. But soon, thoughts crept in like shadows, first small, then heavy. "What if I fail?" whispered one. "What if the people see weakness in their king?" said another. He pushed them away, but the harder he tried, the louder they became. Hours passed, and still his mind refused to rest. Sweat formed on his brow, and for the first time in years, King Arvel felt powerless, not against an enemy, but against himself. The night dragged on like a storm with no end. King Arvel sat still, but his mind ran wild, darting from memory to memory, fear to fear. He tried to silence it through deep breaths, through willpower, through pride. But every attempt only made the noise louder. It was as though his thoughts had been waiting for this moment to break free. His heart pounded in the quiet room, echoing louder than the thunder outside. He had faced armies and traitors, yet nothing terrified him more than the chaos inside his own head. "What is happening to me?" he whispered, gripping his throne. "I am the master of my mind." But the more he fought, the more his mind rebelled. Suddenly, he saw a vision, a younger version of himself standing before him. The boy looked afraid, holding a wooden sword. "You trained your mind to obey," the boy said, "but never to listen." The vision faded, leaving the king shaken. His breath grew shallow. The sage's words echoed, "You may rule the land, but can you rule your thoughts?" Arvel rose to his feet, pacing. "I have conquered desire, anger, greed," he said aloud, his voice trembling. "What else is there left to conquer?" Then came the whisper, quiet but piercing. "Doubt." The word hit him like lightning. All his life, he had silenced doubt instead of understanding it. He had buried it under achievements, under power, under discipline. But tonight, it had returned, demanding to be seen. He sank to his knees. "Why can't I stop thinking?" he cried. "Why can't my mind obey?" At that moment, the sage's voice filled the room, though no one was there. "Because the mind is not a servant, O king. It is a garden. You cannot command flowers to bloom by shouting. You must tend to them with patience." Arvel closed his eyes, tears forming. For the first time, he realized that control was not mastery. It was fear disguised as strength. As dawn approached, the first light crept through the window. His body was exhausted, but his heart was awake. He understood now. True power was not in suppressing thoughts, but in seeing them without judgment. The real battle was never to silence the mind, but to make peace with it. As the sun began to rise, its golden rays spilled across the marble floor of the king's chamber, painting warmth over the storm that had raged within him all night. King Arvel sat still, his face pale, but his eyes calm for the first time in hours. The echo of the sage's words lingered in his heart. "You cannot silence the mind by force. You must understand it." He finally realized that his desire to control the mind had been born from fear. Fear of imperfection, fear of weakness, fear of being human. And so, for the first time, he stopped trying to command his thoughts. Instead, he simply watched them. He observed the memories, the worries, the doubts as they drifted through his mind like passing clouds. Some were dark, some light, but all of them faded when he stopped chasing or fighting them. The silence that followed was not forced. It was peaceful. It was acceptance. Later that day, the sage returned to the palace, expecting to find a broken man. Instead, he saw the king sitting under the courtyard tree, his eyes closed, his face serene. "You have come far," said the sage softly. Arvel opened his eyes and smiled. "I lost the battle to my mind," he said, "and that's how I finally won." The sage nodded with approval. To control the mind is not to suppress it. It is to see through its illusions. When you stop judging your thoughts, you begin to rule them with wisdom, not fear. From that day onward, King Arvel changed. He no longer ruled with the cold sharpness of perfection, but with the warmth of awareness. When his ministers made mistakes, he no longer punished them with anger, but guided them with patience. When his people came to him with their worries, he listened, truly listened. The same peace he discovered within himself began to ripple through his kingdom. The palace, once ruled by silence and discipline, now echoed with calm laughter and hope. Arvel had discovered the deepest form of strength, not in conquering the mind, but in making peace with it. Weeks passed, and the change in King Arvel became the heartbeat of his kingdom. The once rigid and perfection-driven ruler now led with empathy and calm authority. His people noticed that his voice had softened, yet his presence had grown stronger. He no longer demanded silence in his court. Instead, he invited honest discussion and gentle reflection. Even the youngest servants said the palace felt lighter. When asked what had changed him, Arvel would simply smile and say, "I stopped trying to cage the wind." One evening, As the sun dipped behind the hills, the sage returned one last time. "You have learned what few ever understand," he said. "You no longer seek to control your mind, you walk alongside it." Arvel bowed deeply. "I once believed strength was dominance. Now I see it is harmony." The sage placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then you are truly a king, not only of a kingdom, but of yourself." After the sage left, Arvel walked to his balcony, watching the lanterns flicker across the city below. The same world stretched before him, yet it felt entirely new. His heart no longer chased perfection or feared failure. He had discovered the quiet joy of being present, of simply being. And from that night on, the kingdom of Arvel flourished, not just in wealth, but in spirit. For when a leader finds peace within, the people learn to follow it without. Your mind is your most loyal servant, but your worst master. The moment you try to fight it, it fights harder. But when you learn to listen, to breathe, and to see your thoughts as passing clouds, peace begins to bloom within. King Arvel's journey reminds us that strength isn't found in silence or suppression. It's found in understanding. You don't have to control every thought. You only need to choose which ones deserve your attention. The rest will fade like ripples in still water. So the next time your mind turns against you, don't raise your sword. Open your heart. Because peace doesn't come from conquering the mind. It comes from befriending it. And once you do, you'll realize that the calm you've been searching for was never outside. It was waiting patiently within you all along.